It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Friday, July 21st, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is going to do a draft class rewind to 2019.
We're taking it way back.
Yeah, so far back to 2019. Plus, we're going to talk about why the Morgan Frost contract isn't done yet and get into some other Flyers news all on today's show.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there. Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. We are also as a show on Instagram and Threads at Locked On Flyers. You can subscribe or follow us for free over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, we've got little dribs and drabs of summer Flyers news to talk about. Former Flyer Nate Thompson announced his retirement kind of unceremoniously, but kind of knew it would be coming pretty soon for him, if not this year. But just a real good guy. Good to have him on the Flyers. So best wishes to him.
Yeah, good teammate, good guy. I wished him congratulations online. I'm happy for him. Happy that he's healthy.
Looking at just a few former Flyers prospects that have found new homes elsewhere. God, this sounds like animal adoption, but it is not. They are human beings who are now signed elsewhere, but glad to see that their hockey careers are continuing. Connor McLennan and Isaac Ratcliffe are going to be together on the Chicago Wolves next season in the AHL. And that is a powerhouse team year in and year out. And Connor McLennan and Ratcliffe are going to be a great addition there.
They are. This is, I wouldn't say an all-star team with Chicago, but they're independent and they always look for guys that are on the cusp of being NHLers so they can be very competitive because they do sell tickets there. It's a very popular team. And so I'm happy for these guys because this is going to be like a pro environment for them. And still, it's a way for them to still further their careers. Both of them, have different talents. I think McLennan's probably got a little bit better chance these days of making it to the NHL. And so, yeah, I'm happy for both.
Wyatt Wiley signed a one-year deal with the Ontario Reign, which is the LA Kings affiliate in the AHL, and Ryan Fitzgerald signed a one-year deal with the Utica Comets in the AHL. So we'll be seeing them around the Phantoms. Well, at least Ryan Fitzgerald, we will, because the Phantoms do play Utica.
Right.
Another weird bit of news around a Flyers prospect. We have talked about Alex Bump, talked about him a lot recently with development camp, and he is an attendee at University of Vermont who just fired their head coach, Todd Woodcroft, who'd been there for a long time and was one of the selling points of that program. There were some inappropriate text messages with a student, according to the statement announcing his firing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at Vermont and if Alex Bump changes his development path because of it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Bump. I don't know if he's going to still want to go there. If he doesn't, I don't know if it's too late to back out. It's a whole complicated thing with the NCAA transfer portal, so he might just go there and see how the new coach is. That's probably what's going to happen. But you feel bad because it's not exactly going to plan now. But the school had to do what they had to do, and we'll just keep an eye on Bump. It's still not bad that he's going to be the big fish in a smaller pond. I'm still okay with that, with the amount of ice time he would get and such.
Exactly. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that in terms of if anything changes with Alex Bump and what his decisions are. I think, the biggest question we have right now for the current Flyers in terms of outstanding things is what's going on with the Morgan Frost contract. And we had talked at the beginning of the week that we thought this contract would be dealt with by the end of this week, with the Tony D'Angelo buyout behind us. We haven't heard anything as of Thursday afternoon recording. Now, they could come out with it just sometime later today or on Friday. But I am a little concerned. Like, why are these negotiations taking so long?
Well, I think one thing is like when you look at uh, their projected cap space, it's just under $3 million, and he's going to make more than that. And so the question is, what else has to happen here to fit in his contract? Do they have to wait until the season starts so the LTIR for Ryan Ellis kicks in? I don't think he's going to accept 2.9. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's not. And I
Hmm.
think they're probably trying to carve out maybe like a 4-year deal. I think that may be what's taking longer too, is I think they may be trying to keep down the AAV. So, give him more years. My guess is that's what's going on. But again, without being a capologist, I don't know what the easy answer is here to find this money.
Yeah, I think that they probably do have the money, considering the cap overage that they're allowed, before the LTIR kicks in
Sure,
for
but
for Ellis. But they could be negotiating, what are the performance incentives, like all of that. They could put
right.
them over a certain threshold here, and that may be what's going on.
Well, the thing is, the LT, from what I understand, that the overage for the summer cap goes until I think training camp starts. But and I could be wrong. I'm not sure the exact date of when like Ryan Ellis's LTIR kicks in, but I'm pretty sure it's like after camp. Not 100% on that. So that's where there's a little bit of a issue, I think. But maybe not. Maybe you're right. Maybe the overage runs into the LTIR and they are just negotiating years. My guess is they're negotiating years. Because if it
Yeah.
was a 1-year deal, I think it would be done already.
Yeah, I think so too. It could be, is this like a 2-year deal or is this a 4-year deal?
Yeah,
Something like
I think
that.
it's going to be like a 4-year deal. I do.
Yeah. So hopefully by the time you're hearing this, we have a deal that is done. But if not, it's something to definitely keep an eye on. One of the other things that we wanted to talk about today is the poll results from our first summer poll that we did. We posted it up over on YouTube on Monday and got a lot of responses. Thank
Yeah, I
you
like poll
so much.
results. I do. It gets me excited.
Yeah, and this is directly related to our draft class rewind that
Hmm.
we're talking about today, where we asked, who's going to take the biggest step forward this season. Uh, 2 of the 4 options that we put up there are from the 2019 draft class. So we had Cam York, Bobby Brink, Owen Tippett, and Tyson Forster. Well, I wouldn't say overwhelming, but the definite winner was Tyson Forster with 41%. Cam York had 31%, Owen Tippett 22%, and Bobby Brink was 6%. So I think that, Cam York, and there was a couple comments to this effect, will get the most minutes by virtue of being a defenseman.
Right.
And because of the blue line, he's going to be relied on a lot more than maybe he would have on a different team right now. Uh, but I do think that it is an interesting result that maybe Owen Tippett took that step forward this past season, so he can only incrementally improve so much, and that's what people are thinking. But that Tyson Forster was definitely the winner of this poll.
Yeah, no question. He's the winner. I think when this show airs, I'll try and dig up. I have a picture of Owen Tippett in shorts when he was getting interviewed on a boat. We were interviewing the
Oh no.
prospects. Yeah, in Chicago, we were like on the river there, and we were interviewing prospects on a boat. And so it's kind of interesting. And so I'll see if I could dig that one up for Owen, because it's a funny picture. So we'll see if I could find it. But yeah, I'm not surprised that it's Forster, because people see the shot, they know he's a big guy. He's his skating has improved. So I think there's going to be a little bit of hype with Tyson Forster. The coach certainly likes him, so that's he's helped hype him up a little bit. But now it's up to him. So now we'll see how he comes into camp and how he deals with all that.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. In the meantime, we do have the 2019 draft class to talk about. We're going to start off with that first round pick, Cam York. Then we'll talk Bobby Brink, the second round pick. We've got Ronnie Attard, Mason Millman, Bryce Brodzinski, and more to talk about. We'll do that coming up next.
Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right, just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you could spend betting everything from the money line to the over/under to who you think is going to hit the first home run. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball.
We're going to have so much more summer content coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're hoping to get some good guests for you, as well as maybe digging into some more draft classes and getting us all ready for next season. Speaking of that 2019 draft class, I think, at the time, this was, I think, a difficult draft for Flyers fans, mostly because of the Cam York
Oh, yeah.
pick.
Yeah.
And I think we appreciate Cam York and that pick a little bit more now than we did at the time, but still probably would have said we would have taken Cole Caulfield instead, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about that. I think the misdetermination by the Flyers here is I think they thought York had a chance of being a top pairing defenseman, and I think we could see now that that's probably remote. Still, it's going to be good. It's going to be a second pairing, really good defenseman in this league. Now the question is, how much offense will he bring? That's really going to be the next question. Either way, he's a solid defenseman, and you're always going to need him. But I think the arc on him maybe isn't as high as it was at that draft.
Yeah, I think so as well. But again, love him, and I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward to this season and seeing, along with the 31% of our listeners who voted for him, taking a
Yep.
big step forward. Hopefully, he does that very thing. I think, again, looking at this draft class as a whole, other than that little sour point of the first round pick, I think, for Chuck Fletcher, it was his first draft class with the Flyers. And I think that it was a real, I would say, above average draft. It was not stellar, but I think that, there were some gems in there.
Yeah, they were.
I think they overall did a pretty solid job, considering that 4 of the 7 are signed with the Flyers, and a 5th it remains to be determined. I think that's a pretty good marker.
Yeah, see, my grading's a little harder because to me, you've got to put in a certain amount of NHL time, and we're still projecting on these guys. But
Yeah.
right now, I think a lot of it hinges on Brink and Attard. If neither of those two really materialize for, let's say, 100 NHL games and York's just it's not going to look great. If Brink and Attard can become NHL regulars, hey, that's great. Then you might say it's above average. If just Attard makes it, then I'd say it's just, it's a good draft, but not a great draft. So that's where everything kind of, rides right now.
Yeah,
For
I
me.
think, at the time, Bobby Brink was seen as a bit of a steal for the Flyers. He had dropped to the second round. And I think, a lot of people, thought the Flyers were lucky to get him, that there were some question marks there, but that he was a really good prospect. Ronnie Attard, I think, people thought at the time that the pick was solid, but he was maybe lesser known. And, why are you going for a guy of that type in the third round, right?
Yeah. So I remember, I think that was about the time, maybe a year before. Maybe that was when I started writing more for EP Rinkside. And I remember JD Burke, who's the editor there, said to me, he looked at my list and he said, "Wow, you have Ronnie Attard ranked as a first round talent. That's really bold." And the only reason I bring that up is because I looked at, what his intangibles were, the size, the shot. He was an overager. So I knew that it would take him a little longer, which he acknowledged was the best path for him like a year ago in camp. He even said that to me. And so far so good. Even if he doesn't start up at the NHL this year, it's fine. I just want that little uptick in his skating, and I think everything else is there. So that's where I say, and I'm not saying this because I had him. I'm just saying that's where
Right.
it's good scouting, simply because now I think he was at Western Michigan, and I think that was a Terry Murray team still. Maybe he was still there, or at least knew of him. It was one or the other, So I think that's what helped them too.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I do think, given, the exposure that he has had to the Flyers level a little bit has been good for him. But that he's really doing the bulk of his development with Lehigh Valley, as is appropriate. I think this season, he definitely took, a significant step forward in his development, but he doesn't have to be
Yeah.
100% there yet. And as we've talked about with defensemen, it's a longer development path. So I
Yeah,
think
it was Andy
he's
Murray, not Terry Murray. The Murrays.
that's fine. I think that it's just that he's where he needs to be in his development path right
He's
now. And
exactly where he needs to be. Like, honestly, this
yeah,
it's all fine. I fully expected him to. I forget his age. I know he's older. I want to say he's maybe 24 or something like that. I fully expected him to be like an NHLer, like maybe at like 25.
yeah. So, and for a third round pick
Yeah,
defenseman, I think that's spot on. So I'm still very pleased with that pick and
me
where
too.
we're going. Going back to Bobby Brink in the second round a
Yes.
little bit, I think the injury thing was definitely, a bump in the road that maybe, we didn't 100% expect. I think the possibility was there, but especially given his success in Denver, I think there was a lot more hype about him, then maybe, like, we should have tempered expectations just a little bit. But between his success with Denver and his time on the World Junior team, I think that we really needed to do a little bit more of a reset in terms of his development path once he hit the pros. And then with the injury thrown in, I really think this upcoming year is going to be huge for him, because it'll be the first full year of him at the AHL level.
Right. So I did do a lot of digging on Bobby Brink. I knew him as a player, but I also, and I can't remember, I would certainly give credit to someone that got me looking at the way he plays and the way that he would get injured. Because I knew he would get injured, but I didn't know really, I didn't have a good feeling as to why he was getting injured. And he's a guy that will just put his body in reckless places because he's fearless, because that's kind of hockey player he is. And I think he's doing a little bit less of that now. Like the hip wasn't because of that. But I knew that there was a risk he could be an injured player at times because of the way he played. So I knew about that. I knew about the bad skating. Like the bad skating was there. Uh, and so the skating now, while here's the thing about skating, it you could mask some bad skating style with figuring out how to get faster. And so Brink has figured out how to get faster, but then when you see him on shifts, you realize, okay, the edge work just isn't there. Like there's his skating, just it's kind of ugly at times. Now that doesn't mean he can't make the NHL like that, because people said similar things about Tyler Toffoli, and we brought him up, and there's other
Hmm.
players too. But you have to really be that top notch of an offensive player to be able to get away with it. So that's kind of like where it has to fall for him, unless he figures out that other part of his skating, right? And that's where he's at right now. He's got offensive skills, and there is a pretty high skill level there, and he's able to play with higher skill level players than even himself. But it's the
Right.
other things that might hold him back.
Right. And so I think overall, for me, I wouldn't say he's behind, but I would say he has to maintain this progress this year.
Yeah, I
Otherwise,
agree
he
with that.
will be behind.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, so big year for Bobby Brink. There were other selections in that draft. We have 4 more picks to get to, and we will do that coming up next. Continuing our 2019 Flyers draft rewind, the 4th round pick, one of Russ's favorites. We talk about him probably more than you would a typical 4th round draft pick, but Mason Millman. We talked about him a lot pretty recently, just talking about development camp because he was there, and what is his role going to look like on the Phantoms. But for a 4th round pick, he did get signed. He's got the ELC. He has hung around, spent some time in Reading, but hopefully this is maybe the year he sticks with the Phantoms.
Yeah, you hope, because I still think there's something there where maybe he could, show everybody a little something, including the Flyers, who are probably like mid on him right now as far as where he's at, but he's still only 22. I
Right.
mean, we're not talking about an over the hill player here. So, and again, I saw him live, which was an edge that a lot of people didn't get, because shortly after seeing him live, the whole world shut down with COVID. So, that was a benefit for me to see how he was on the power play, see how he was playing defense, and also getting the word of, some pretty high, NHLers now who were teammates that really felt like he improved their game at times. So I knew there was a package there that could maybe do something someday, and I still think there's a chance of that.
Yeah, and I think this year, I mean, obviously he's in the last year of his ELC, so
Right.
this is it for him.
Yes. He's got to
And
show it.
so, yep. No 5th round pick, 2 6th round picks, Igor Saduk and Roddy Ross, both of whom remained unsigned and their rights were terminated
Yeah.
in 2021. So not much going on there for the Flyers. But did either of those situations surprise you?
No. I mean, I remember I think he was the backup to Carter Hart, and so they were
Yeah.
buddies, and so it wasn't a bad pick to get him because he was decent with Seattle, and it just,
Right.
it hasn't worked out, and that's fine.
Yeah. Um, for the 7th round pick, this is one of the most interesting picks in the draft for the Flyers, and Bryce Brodzinski, because he obviously picked so late in the draft, but then kind of kicked into gear at the University of Minnesota and really has wowed a lot of people there. He is doing a 5th year at Minnesota because he can with that COVID extra year of eligibility. This past season, they lost in the Frozen Four final to Quinnipiac, and a bunch of the guys decided to come back, I think, to really just say, we can't end our careers on that note. I think Logan Cooley is one of them as well.
Yeah.
And so I think that, he is not signed, but I think the Flyers still retain his rights as of now.
Yeah, I think that is the case. Yeah, there's a little something there. I mean, we've seen it, and his brother has shown it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. I can't predict. I just don't know.
Yeah, he spent most of his time on the second line for Minnesota, and for a program like that to get those kind of minutes,
Yeah.
as a 7th round draft pick, I think is pretty impressive. And he did play well in this Frozen Four tournament this past year. We talked about him a lot when we were covering it. And so I do think there's still potential here. It's just a matter of, will the timing work out, and will the new regime with the Flyers want to continue to keep him in the system?
The whole fly in the ointment thing here is that he got that extra eligibility.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I think what happens with this is, I think come August, if the Flyers don't have him signed, then he's one of those college free agents. He's going to head into his 5th year of eligibility
Hmm.
this year. I made a mistake there. I thought he already had that. So yeah, he's
Oh,
got a
no,
little time.
no.
Yeah, he's got a little time.
Yeah, we have until next summer, I think,
Yeah,
because
I
he's
misunderstood that.
used that 5th year of eligibility. So we'll see what happens with him. But again, a real solid player who's made significant progress over the past several years, and and really has stood out in an impressive program
Yes.
overall. Any other final notes on the 2019 draft class and
Nope.
expectations?
Nope. That's as much as I really like to talk about it, knowing that it takes like 5 years to really judge it.
Yeah, we've got an interesting year ahead for these guys that are still in the Flyers organization. Our Flyers fun thing, a little rewind to the video of Cam York getting selected, and it was quite a moment for Flyers fans, and the commentary on the video from the broadcast is really interesting as well to go back and hear what the guys on TV were saying
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah. I was at the
Um,
draft, so I don't even know that. I don't know if I've ever
yeah,
seen that. I'll have to check it
yeah.
out.
Always a ride. That will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. Of course, we'll be back on Monday with our nemesis of the week. We'll have a new summer poll topic for you, so keep an eye out for that as well. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. We're going to do a mailbag on the Wednesday episode, so send in your questions via Twitter at Locked On Flyers, or you can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. Plus, you can comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a great day, everyone.